Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am the Omniviewer, and by now I think you know that I am a huge fan of Gareth Edwards' 2014 version of Godzilla. Yeah, I know it's a divisive movie and it has plenty of detractors, but darn it all, I liked it. Lord knows it was a much better adaptation than the last one they tried. Now, there's a lot I want to say about this movie, but right now I want to talk about sequels. Opening weekend was barely halfway done before Godzilla 2 was officially greenlit. Later that year at Comic-Con, it was announced that Legendary wanted to bring some of Godzilla's old co-stars along for the ride. Specifically, Rodan, Mothra, and King Ghidorah. It was also announced that the sequel would not be seeing the light of day until summer of 2018. This video is coming to you from February of 2015. So we have a very long wait ahead of us. But that gives us plenty of time to speculate. I've come up with a list of 5 things that I feel need to happen in Godzilla 2. And if they don't happen in Godzilla 2, maybe Godzilla 3. So, spoiler alert is in effect for the first movie. Sit back, and here are the 5 things that need to happen in Godzilla 2, and any subsequent sequels. Number 5. Cast a Japanese actor in the lead role. One of the many things this movie got right that the last American Godzilla got wrong was remembering that Godzilla's origins are in Japan and not France. I will never understand where the French connection came from. I have nothing against France. I enjoy watching Jean Reno act as much as the next guy, but what does France have to do with Godzilla? The most significant thing I can think of was when Gorosaurus leveled the Arc de Triomphe and destroyed all monsters, and that was just one time. The 2014 movie not only remembered that Godzilla was Japanese, but actually celebrated it, displaying his name in kanji and English in pretty much all of the promotional materials. While it is still very much an American film about American characters, the most interesting one to survive to the end credits, if you ask me at least, was Dr. Ichiro Serizawa, as played by Ken Watanabe. Something about the way he was written, having a deeper connection to Godzilla than anyone else, has led me to wonder if maybe he was originally meant to be the lead character. But the first movie has said its piece, which means the sequel has an interesting opportunity. Why not further cement that Japanese heritage by casting someone of Japanese or Japanese-American descent in the main role? Let's face it, people, American movies with Asian lead characters are very, very rare. It's to the point where Hollywood won't even cast Asian leads in movies set in Asia. The Last Samurai, starring Tom Cruise. 47 Ronin, starring Keanu Reeves. Kung Fu Panda, starring Jack Black. That last one actually can get a pass because it was a great movie and so is its sequel, but the point is, if ever there was an opportunity for a high-profile franchise to break that mold by King Caesar, it's this one. Sure, you could cast a bunch of Asians in the supporting roles, but that wouldn't be changing anything. In fact, why don't we even take it a step further? Number 4. Have a major set piece somewhere in Japan. Even though the male Muto levels a power plant in Janjira, twice in fact, most of the destruction we see in Godzilla still takes place on American soil, specifically Honolulu, Las Vegas, and San Francisco. I'm perfectly fine with those locations. Heck, I'm just glad this wasn't yet another major summer blockbuster set in Manhattan, because Lord knows we've got enough of them floating around. I even understand why destroying Japan was probably avoided. The island nation has gotten hit by very real disasters, both natural and nuclear, in recent years, and it was probably decided that showing on-screen destruction might be viewed as being in bad taste. Hence, no Japanese cities destroyed in the film. That's just speculation, of course, but it makes sense, and my heart goes out to everyone who has suffered from these disasters. But all that being said, I still feel like the kaiju have to make landfall and battle in Japan at some point. It can be Tokyo, Fukuoka, Osaka, or just the slopes of Mount Fujiyama. I don't care. I just feel like it has to happen. Japan is Godzilla's original playground, and he should be allowed to play there. Trust me, the Japanese won't actually mind. Believe it or not, the Japanese will be making their own movie in 2016 in which Godzilla destroys Japan. What further proof do you need? Number 3. Mix new and old kaiju. I often find myself surprised at how lacking in imagination some people can be. Upon seeing the trailers, many people assumed that the faint glimpses we got of the Mutos were actually updated versions of either Rodan or Mothra. Now the sequel has promised not only those two, but King Ghidorah. People are going crazy over that announcement. So much so that they're not even considering what new monstrosities might be awaiting us. Personally, I want to see a mix. I'd love to see updated versions of these three as much as the next guy, but I happen to like the Mutos as new opponents. Between them and the Kaiju from Pacific Rim, somebody at Legendary clearly has quite an imagination for coming up with new monsters, and I'd love to see what other new stuff they can come up with. So mix it up a little. Old Kaiju, new Kaiju. Keeps things interesting. Regardless of what might happen in the future though, there's a certain requirement that I'm not entirely sure people are even thinking about yet. So I am going to make darn sure that you are. Number 2. Expand the mythology. Godzilla 2014 did a very good job establishing the relationship between Godzilla and the Mutos. Sort of a predator-prey, parasite-host kind of relationship. A mixture of natural ecosystem with Eastern concepts of balance. It would be very easy for the sequels to interpret everything through this idea. And they really, really shouldn't. Part of what makes the Godzilla franchise so much fun is the fact that kaiju come in all shapes and sizes. You've got prehistoric survivors, modern mutations, aliens, robots, deities, and whatever the heck Biollante is. It all comes together to make a world where anything is possible, and I'm honestly worried that the American films might not go with that idea. Rodan would fit in there easily enough. He's got a similar origin to Godzilla. But what about Mothra and King Ghidorah? Mothra is a goddess, a physical deity combining elements of Christianity and Shintoism. How exactly will be a topic for a different video. In every iteration she's appeared in, Mothra has always been supernatural. It is that inherent to her character. King Ghidorah has gone through various different origins over the decades. To me, he'll always be an extraterrestrial destroyer of worlds. That's just the one that makes the most sense. It's the most iconic version of him. But every other version that we've seen has always given him an outlandish origin, because how else are you going to justify the existence of a giant gold dragon with 3 heads? Quite honestly, if the American films aren't ready to embrace the more outlandish concepts of this franchise, I'd rather they not introduce them at all. So if anybody from Legendary is watching this, first of all, please don't do a copyright strike on my video, but more on topic, take a tip from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They ran with the idea of monsters, gods, and aliens coexisting, and so should you. And now it's time for the big one, and I bet you've already guessed what it is. Number 1. Devote more screen time to the kaiju. I'd like to take a brief moment to gloat, because I warned you people. Way back in December of 2013, when that first teaser trailer aired, everybody loved it, except for me. While the rest of the internet was gushing about how epic and dramatic and tense this teaser was, I was a bit more cautious. Being a Godzilla fan, I was still looking forward to it, but I was very concerned. To me, the trailers were promising a very human-centric movie with the monsters predominantly in the background. Of course, there were plenty of comments telling me that I was overreacting and that Legendary was just showing restraint. One guy even said I wasn't the Godzilla fan I thought I was. And then opening day came, and people were shocked, absolutely shocked, to discover that Godzilla was a very human-centric movie with the monsters predominantly in the background. In other words, I was right, and all of you were wrong. Maybe next time we'll listen to the guy who practices cautious optimism? Yes? I find it almost poetic that I was the one person in the entire world who was worried that something like this might happen, And now that I've been vindicated, I'm actually one of the people defending that choice. All that being said, I want to make something very clear. I'm only tolerating it this time. Godzilla 2014 had its work cut out for it, as it had to sell a concept as serious to an audience that doesn't take it seriously. The sad fact is that most Americans think Godzilla is stupid. They're wrong, but this movie had to convince them otherwise, and the way it did so was present things in such a restrained way that even the most uninterested audience member would be left wanting more. Now, the sequel has no excuses to do the same. The movie was a success, Godzilla is back in the mainstream, now it's time to deliver the goods. Show us cities being destroyed in the moment. Don't cut away to whatever the people are doing when a fight is taking place. Give us more chances to be in awe of these creatures. If you don't do that, then we have a problem, and I won't be so quick to defend you next time. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is my 2 cents. What do you guys think? Do you agree with my list? Are there things you want to see that maybe I didn't mention? Like I said, we've got until 2018, so now is the time to make our voices heard and let Legendary know what we really want to see in Godzilla 2. Until such time as we meet again, this is the Omniviewer, signing off. Next time, rather than discuss the movie itself, our discussion might take a slightly more artistic turn.